Korean War was a military conflict between South Korea and North Korea that occurred when the firework of the Cold War between 1915 and 1953 due to political difference. Both parties were supported by different world powers, for which two late groups were formed. South Korea, supported by the military force of the United States, and North Korea, supported by the military force of the Soviet Union and the People's Republic of China. This Korean War, as I mentioned earlier, was one of the most catastrophic war conflicts in history, citing 15% of the population of the North Korea was among its victims. It all started on June 25, 1915, when North Korea decided to invade South Korea. Faced with this invasion, the United States came to defend South Korea and in this just 2 months managed to stop the invasion for the North. However, before this initiative, the People's Republic of China sided with North Korea and entered into armed conflict against the United States and the south of the peninsula. By 1953, through an agreement that restored the border between North and South Korea, the war came to an end. Today, following our own intervention, both sides are separated by 4 km wide border and continue to have a strong rivalry which is another.
The main causes of Korean War were first, the imperial dispute between the two victorious superpowers of the Second World War, the Soviet Union and the United States. 2. The rivalry between the communist regime of North Korea chaired by Kim Il-sung and supported by the Soviet Union, and the capitalism government of South Korea chaired by Syngman Rhee and supported by the United States. 3. The North Korea's attempt to reunify the peninsula by force. The Koreans, with the Soviet weapons, invaded South Korea on June 25, 1950. This provoked the reaction of the United States and the outbreak of the Korean War to 1950 to 1953.
The main causes of the war were that after they stopped being a colony of Japan after the Hiroshima and Nagasaki bombs, and that now Korea will pass to the Soviet and the United States, dividing them in half. This led to a desire on both sides of waiting to reunify, but both of systems don't want to give the power to the other, until North Korea asked the Soviet Union for help to attack South Korea and unite them again. So they crossed the 38th parallel, bringing the war, trying to reach the South Korean capital Seoul and conquer all of South Korea.
The characteristics that represent the Korean War are as follows. Violence and chaos made this war one of the bloodiest in history. More than 3 million deaths. A strong social division by political ideals which are opposed to the two Koreas to this day. The territorial ambition and strong political ideology of the superpower that support the sides. Conflict between two political ideology, capitalism and socialism. Division of the country into by parallel territories.
After 3 years of a bloody and frustrating war, the United States, the People's Republic of China, North Korea and South Korea agreed to an armistice, bringing the fighting of the Korean War to an end. The armistice ended American first experiment with the Cold War concept of limited war. Post-war recovery was different in the two Koreas. South Korea stagnated in the first post-war decade. In 1953, signed a mutual defense treaty with United States. South Korea industrialized, modernized, and turned in one of the world's fastest-growing economies from the early 1960s to the late 1990s. In In September 1953, the Soviet government agreed to cancel or postpone repayment for all outstanding debts and promised to grant North Korea 1 billion rubles in monetary aid, industrial equipment, and consumer goods. China cancelled North Korea war debts, provided 800 in yuans, promised trade cooperation, and sent in thousands of troops to rebuild damaged infrastructure. South Korean anti-Americanism after the war was followed by the presence and behavior of USA military personnel and USA support for Park's authoritarian regime, a fact still evident during the country's democratic transition in the 1980s. However, anti-Americanism has declined significantly in South Korea in recent years, from 46% favorable in 2003 to 74% favorable in 2011, making South Korea one of the most pro-USA countries in the world.
Sadly, many families were divided after this happened. Many will be left with an even greater desire than waiting to reunite again, even North and South Korea are still at war.